Hi everyone, I'm Dan from JazzComposersPresent.com, an online space where composers, musicians, and listeners come together to celebrate the music we love. I'm joined today by Ed Neumeister, Grammy-nominated composer, arranger, and trombonist, and alumnus of the Mel Lewis Jazz Orchestra and the Duke Ellington Orchestra. Ed is here to show us his approach to composing using mixed meters.
One of my primary inspirations is Mother Nature. And one of the things I realized by observing nature is that it's rarely symmetrical. And so I started taking that inspiration and applying it to my music, not with every piece, but often. And rather than always writing in 4/4 or 3/4 or even 5 or 7, trying to look for other ways to create a pulse, but still in a groove, keeping the groove happening. And I've even transcribed pictures of deserts, or when I was sitting in the desert, I went and did a transcription of where the various cactus was and tried to apply that to musical notation. But primarily, it's taking a pulse, and then if we think in 4 beats per bar, or 3 or 5, it's the last beat of the bar is manipulated in some kind of way. That's the way I usually do it. And it's the last beat of the bar can be extended or diminished by a 16th note or an 8th note. Usually in this case, it's mostly 16th notes. And so for this particular piece, which is called Ridgewood, which I composed when I was living in Ridgewood, Queens, in New York, a couple years ago for the summer, I decided to compose a piece specifically with a group of mixed meters. And we can look at the first example, my basic first sketch. This is what it looks like. And this is relatively common for all my compositional processes. And in this case, which some people might find strange, but it's 17/16 and then it says funky. So it's kind of, you might even say dancing with a limp, or the extra beat, the last beat of the bar being extended somewhat. In this case, the bars, the meters were sort of just put together using my intuition, thinking percussively to myself and then notating what I was hearing essentially. And that's what we're looking at right here on the left-hand side. And the whole piece is basically outlined right there. It does change a little bit later, but it's all right there. And not to get too deep in the weeds, and the source material for harmonies and melodies was developed or constructed from what I call the upper structure matrix. And that would be a long discussion, but that's what we're looking at, the middle where it says for blowing. That's what I call the upper structure matrix. And I was using those different harmonies to create the material after the rhythm. So I was starting with the rhythms and then plugging it in. And once the basic sketch, the one from the page before, has been completed, then in the process, the next step for me is to move to what I call the sketch score. And here you can see the meters, 17/16 it starts, which actually changed later, but it was 17/16, and some kind of what I call harmonic reference. And this is something I've been talking about and doing for some time now. What looks like chord changes to a lot of people, I call harmonic reference, because a chord change somehow it has too much, it's too specific. And I just want a basic reference point to be composing. And in this case, or often, the way I construct my pieces is to build it from the foundation up. So we started in this case with the rhythms and the meters. And then the next step was with the harmonic reference as a guide, composing the bass part. And you can see the bass part is not totally finished here yet, but the basic is there. And then we move to the next page, and it's actually the same page, building up. So on top of the bass part, there is a counter melody or comping, however you want to say it, accompaniment for what will become the primary melody, which is going to be on top. And in this case, I take the harmonic references, look for the guide tones, and with the guide tones of the harmonic reference, create the counter melody or accompaniment. Then on the next page, the primary melody is added on top. And that's in essence how I construct almost all my music. The pieces performed on my latest record is called What Have I Done is the record, and this Ridgewood is on there. With good players, it feels really, really natural. And it's always the last beat of the bar that's manipulated. And here we have everything mapped out. And what might be interesting for you is that this piece has been orchestrated so far twice. So one for the quartet version that you're going to hear, and again for a big band or jazz orchestra version, also more or less the same thing. So even with the simple material, we have the rhythm. Now the drum part is written out, notated completely here, and just sort of a point of reference to the drummer on the particular recording, Tom Rainey. When he looked at this, he said, "This is nice, but can I see the bass part?" And he preferred to work from the bass part. So I think that's, for especially in a jazz situation, it's a little more common. But for me, in my own reference, I put the drum part in more or less exactly like I want. And also, if I do a concert with a school band or amateur band, then the drummer can really be focused on exactly what's notated there. So those are some of my thoughts of composing for mixed meters. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you're inspired, and I hope you can maybe apply it to some of your work, and I hope to see you sometime soon.
Thanks for watching today's mini lesson. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Drop any questions, comments, or suggestions for future videos in the comment section down below. To watch our full-length events and participate in live Q&As with our presenting artists, head over to jazzcomposerspresent.com. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.